After 10 years in darkness, I amazed my family by awakening in my casket the joy they discovered. Samuel had long been a ghost in the sepulchre of his own home, curled tightly in the shadows as if they had become a comforting blanket. The room was filled with the muted echoes of laughter from days gone by, moments now crystallized in time that felt like whispers from another life. He could almost hear his mother's voice teasing him for always having his nose buried in scientific journals, and his sister's bright laughter as she chased him through their backyard, the freedom of wind-filled afternoons. But now, those memories were heavy stones, reminders of who he had been before a tragic accident snatched everything away. He wheeled himself through the dimly lit corridors, his heart a riot of confusion. Did he once possess the vibrant spirit that his family mourned? Or had he always been merely a hesitant scholar, trapped within the skeletal frame of his ambition? The family had gathered to honor him, a clumsy bouquet of loss dressed in crafted words that smothered rather than uplifted. Brimming with love, yet suffocating him with expectations, they laid his casket open. Samuel could feel the pressure clinging to the room, each face twisted with grief and the palpable wish for closure. And there, amidst the fragrant reminders of the life they so dearly cherished, he found a flicker of rebellion igniting within him. Did they truly understand who he had become during the years of suffering? Could they ever meet him in this unrecognized reality? Or did they still hold a shadow of the boy who could outrun the wind? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The moment of revelation ignited an internal storm. He had unearthed principles of treatment loathed by his former self, successful theories hiding beneath layers of anxiety, waiting to be revealed to the world. Yet, every ounce of determination he cultivated clashed with an unrelenting dread, a bone-deep fear that emerged like an unidentifiable specter. Would sharing his newfound knowledge transform his family's sorrow into hope, or would it alienate him further? Their gazes, muddied with grief, saw him only as the boy in the photograph and not the fractured man before them. "I'm still here," he imagined shouting, the weight of a decade's silence compressing him further into his chair. But as he wrestled with the oppositional forces of fear and responsibility, he hesitated. The man he had become was more than a survivor. He was a seeker of knowledge, an architect of ideas crafted in solitude. With deliberate breath, he broke the stillness, his voice firm, yet tinged with cautious excitement. "I need to share something. It's important." The words hung in the air, electrifying the space. His family's eyes widened, and for the first time, he felt their attention gravitating toward him. Anticipation filled the room, igniting a fire in his chest that blazed against the chilling grip of uncertainty. He continued, slowly gleaning the bravery to unveil the complexities he had unearthed, the concepts of resilience and healing wrapped in scientific truths he had documented through sleepless nights. Names and terms spilled from him like water formerly confined in a dam, yearning to flow freely once unleashed. As he spoke, Samuel's spirit lifted, entwined with a newfound identity that felt unmistakably genuine. He shared bits of his isolation and how darkness had honed his vision, transforming personal despair into a pursuit for understanding. Their expressions shifted from sorrow to intrigue. This moment was dual-edged. It empowered him while confronting his deepest fears. The weight of their expectations still loomed, but would the seeds of enlightenment take root amid their grief? Could this revelation be the bridge that united his past self and the unfurling man before them? Across the room, his sister's eyes glimmered with something. Was it understanding mingled with hope, or a daunting challenge to their unspoken ties? Samuel clenched his fists, aware he had opened a door, but would it swing wide to invite them into his new world, or slam shut and sever their connection further? The tension grew thicker as Samuel contemplated the distance between nostalgia and reality, past sorrows and future aspirations. Would his voice resound beyond the walls of old memories, or would it be lost in echoes of what once was? As he awaited their response, the stakes climbed, and he wondered, would his transformation evoke acceptance, or was he simply a relic of what they cherished, destined to linger forever on the edge of their misplaced expectations? A singular question seared through his mind, demanding clarity. What if they can't see me for who I am now? The stillness that followed felt interminable, a tightrope walk between hope and dread. Samuel's heart drummed a frantic rhythm against the confines of his chest. He could almost taste the anticipation vibrating in the air, sweet and acidic all at once. It demanded to be quenched, but what if, after all this effort, he found himself thrust back into the shadows? Across the room, Samuel registered subtle movements, a quirk of an eyebrow, the nervous brushing of a hand across a pant leg. Their faces ranged from tentative curiosity to barely suppressed grief. His mother, always the emotional anchor, looked ready to collapse. Her expression flickered between pride and a palpable fear of losing him within these shared revelations. "Please, go on," his sister whispered, a thread of urgency woven through her tone. Her inviting gesture felt powerful, a gentle tug toward exploration, but he remained acutely aware of the fragility of this moment. Engaging the depth of his new beliefs, Samuel forged ahead, recounting the nights spent dissecting his thoughts under the dim glow of his desk lamp, the hours he transformed bleak reflections into structured strategies for healing. His voice, measured yet passionate, wove through experiences both raw and enlightening, approached closely like a mosaic, revealing vibrant colors that once lay hidden. "In my darkest times, I dug deep into the science of healing. It's not just about recovery, it's about rediscovery," he asserted, a bold statement now ringing with conviction in the quiet room. Listening intently, his family absorbed his revelations, their expressions gradually shifting as the words began to break through the veneer of sorrow that encapsulated them. Samuel noticed his father's shoulders dropping slightly, as if the weight of expectation was being released, allowing a hint of relief to unfold. But with this release, a gnawing uncertainty emerged from the depths of Samuel's mind. Could he truly be transformed beyond the trials of his past? Would his family accept the idea of his metamorphosis, wild and unpredictable, as a potential harbinger of hope rather than another layer of guilt? He hesitated, a flicker of self-doubt threatening to dim the light he had cast. "But," he began cautiously, "I realize now that it's not just about me. It's about us, our connections, our stories. Healing is collaborative. I need you to understand this isn't merely my fight." Silence engulfed the room again, more profound this time, as if he had struck a chord resonating with unspoken truths between them. The tension surfaced, revealing an intricate web of familial expectations, unacknowledged sorrow, and a longing for connection. His sister leaned forward, her voice steady as she broke the profound quiet. "We've missed you, Sam, but it's not easy seeing you as someone different, someone we can't quite grasp." The words hit him, heavy yet liberating, confrontation and clarity intertwined. This was the moment of truth he had yearned for, the direct intersection of vulnerability and honesty. It was the anxiety of revealing himself juxtaposed against the courageous pursuit of acceptance from those he loved. In reclaiming his narrative, Samuel felt the confines of isolation loosen, opening a doorway to an unforeseen domain, no longer merely a collection of memories from darker days, but an evolving entity, resilient and yearning for inclusion. Reflection intermingled with resolution surged through him as he articulated their collective journey of healing. "We are all navigating through the unknown together," he articulated, emboldened. "I want to explore how we can heal as a family. I need your help to learn, and we can discover each other in ways we haven't before." The ensuing response from his family was muted, a cautious glimmer of energy pulsating through them. Samuel's heart raced, anticipating the potential shift. Would they acknowledge this shift toward a new beginning, chasing shadows back into the light? As he sought their reactions, hope and trepidation coalesced within him. Could they leap with him into this new existence, or would they retreat, wedged securely in nostalgia? He fought against the swell of uncertainty and took a mental step forward. But as Samuel contemplated their faces, a new apprehension emerged. What if they weren't just facing him, but instead reflecting his deepest insecurities back at him? He clenched his jaw, determined to unearth the core of their silence, knowing this confrontation would guide his next steps. What if, he challenged within, this was the day we chose to redefine our ties, embracing the unknown? The ensuing silence broke like a fragile glass held too tightly, leaving Samuel vulnerable to the weight of their stares. He felt the warmth of their confusion. It pulsed against the icy edges of his resolve. He had stepped onto a delicate bridge, each word serving as a plank he was laying down, uncertain if they'd support him or send him crashing back into despair. His sister's face remained a mirror of mixed emotions. She was trying to reconcile the brother she had lost with the man who stood before them now. Perhaps she was waiting for a familiar flicker, an echo of the past that could bridge the distance of his transformation. "Can we really do this?" he asked, his voice low, the tremor betraying his heart's uncertainty. The question weighed heavily, a demand for commitment, an unspoken pact among those present. Samuel knew he needed to express the enormity of this moment, but doubt twisted his words, reminding him of the ghosts that clawed at the edges of his mind. His mother finally broke free from her stunned silence. "Sam, I want to believe in this, in you. It's all so new." Her voice quavered, thick with emotion, and Samuel felt himself pulled into the depths of her turmoil. "New, yes," he replied, a hint of urgency accelerating his words. "But it can also be liberating. I can't promise it'll be easy, but I genuinely believe we can reshape our lives and redefine what it means to be a family." The tension shifted slightly. Even the faintest nods began to permeate the quiet. Samuel's heart urged him forward. "I'm not asking for blind faith, but rather for you to join me in exploring this unfamiliar territory. Together, we can face the past and carve out a future." His father's expression softened, revealing years of pent-up concern. "That sounds hopeful," he admitted, a begrudging acceptance lacing his words. Yet, Samuel sensed the underlying apprehension, the fear that this could all lead back into deep waters of unresolved grief. Samuel's own fear surged in response. Would his family's hope wane when faced with the reality of change? "We don't have to have all the answers," he pressed. "Being uncomfortable is part of this journey. Let's share our stories, our fears, as much as our aspirations." A palpable effort became evident on his sister's face as she processed the challenge. She fidgeted, unsure. "But what if we don't like what we find? What if you find a version of yourself that we can't embrace? Her eyes locked onto him, a painful admission cascading from the depths of familial love. He absorbed her words, allowing his mind to ponder the vulnerability that lay on both sides. The truth is, I've walked through shadows alone for too long. I don't want to lose what we have. I want to find a way to blend growth with the love we've always shared. I want to know you fully. As he spoke, something ignited within him, a dawning clarity. While he had been pondering his transformation, he hadn't fully registered the shift he was asking them to undertake. It wasn't just about healing. It was the challenge of redefining themselves through Samuel's journey and perhaps finding their new selves in the process. I need to share something too, Samuel realized with sudden urgency, sensing the momentum of their emerging dialogue. I've uncovered parts of myself I didn't even know existed. Creativity, resilience, a hunger for life that I thought had faded. His sister raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. What do you mean? With fervor igniting his spirit, Samuel said, I've taken photographs, written poems. I've begun to pour my experiences into art. It's my way of unraveling my past. It helped me discover pieces of my identity. Maybe it could help us? He paused, scanning their reactions, the atmosphere shifting around him like a breeze, promising something new. Could this be their avenue to bridge the chasm that had formed? As he spoke, however, a flicker of hesitation settled deep within. What if they didn't recognize the man he was revealing? This fear prompted questions never uttered aloud. Would they accept him? The poet, the artist, the man he was striving to become? What if, despite the beauty unearthed in this journey, I lost myself in the process? He pondered, his resolve trembling as he braced for their next words, hoping they would not push him back into those dark waters. And in that charged moment of silence, Samuel felt the weight of their uncertainty heavy on his chest. Would they choose to walk alongside him or retreat into the shadows, clutching their memories of who he used to be? A breath hung in the air, thick with unspoken emotions, the weight of Samuel's revelation creating a palpable tension. He scanned the faces of his family, searching for signals of hope amid their unease. As he noticed the subtle shifts in their expressions, a glimmer of something more than confusion, something inside him stoked the embers of his confidence. It's okay to feel lost, Samuel pressed, his voice resonating with newfound determination. I feel it too, but this moment can be our crossroads, the time we choose to break from what we've known. His sister's brow furrowed, puzzlement battled with a flicker of encouragement in her eyes. You talk of art and expression like they're bridges, but they can also deepen the chasms. Can we really share the shadows without risk? Are we equipped to handle what might arise? Returning the gaze she fixed upon him, Samuel felt a surge of realization that holding on to fears only ensured stagnation. Creating together doesn't just allow us to confront darkness, it gives us tools to light the way. This is about vulnerability, not just on my part, but on all of ours. His father leaned forward as if to emphasize both concern and support. What do you envision, son? How does art bring us back from the edge you're describing? A tightness clenched in Samuel's chest as he charted the course ahead, piecing his thoughts into a cohesive tapestry. I want us to embrace our stories, to explore painting, photography, poetry, share our truths, expose our scars. This could be a healing process that reconfigures how we perceive each other. I don't paint, his sister murmured. I don't know the first thing about poetry either. How can I participate? You don't have to be an artist to express what you feel, Samuel assured, his heart racing at the prospects before him. It could be as simple as journaling, writing letters to each other, anything that speaks from the heart. It's about finding your voice, however that emerges. The silence deepened again, filled with uncertainty. Yet within it, Samuel sensed an opportunity for exploration rising. What if they unraveled themselves from the confines of the past? What if the darkness could finally clear into something meaningful? "Can I show you?" Samuel boldly suggested, the impulse stirring within him, his instincts igniting. "I have photographs, pieces of my journey that capture not just sorrow, but bursts of life. Maybe experiencing my process opens up the floor for you to create." His family exchanged glances, a dance of apprehension and intrigue, and Samuel felt the voice of fear recede just enough to let a flicker of hope thrive. "Let's meet tomorrow. I'll present my work. We can discuss it, talk through the emotions captured in each piece. I don't expect you to respond perfectly, but sharing could be the key to our connection." His sister hesitated, her internal battle evident. "Okay, I'll try, but I'm terrified." "That's valid," he acknowledged softly. "But let's think of it this way. If we face our fears together, we might discover that the shadows lose their grip." They sat there, the unease still tangible, but now painted with the vibrant hues of possibility. Samuel could feel transformation at his fingertips. They were on the precipice of change, a leap into unfamiliarity, a leap he hoped his family would take alongside him. As they lingered in their silence, the ember of inspiration flickered brightly within him. Perhaps this would not only be an unveiling of his world, but a chance to instill courage in one another. But what if tomorrow's revelations shattered the fragile hope they had just begun to weave? Was he ready to face their raw emotions as well as his own, if what emerged spoke more of nostalgia than new beginnings? As Samuel examined the complexities of the path ahead, the weight of uncertainty loomed once more, casting a shadow on his aspirations. Would their willingness to open themselves up change nothing? Or could art ignite the healing they all needed? Tomorrow was charged with possibility. He had to find a way to make it count. The air hung thick with unvoiced fears and speculation as the dawn of the much-anticipated meeting broke over Samuel's home. He rose early, a mix of eagerness and apprehension thrumming through his veins. The morning light filtered in, illuminating his collection of photographs spread across the dining table, a constellation of memories he was ready to lay bare. As he surveyed the images, each one cradled a story, a piece of himself. Yet anxiety clawed at his insides. Would they see beyond the surface? In a moment of introspection, he recalled the reasons that brought him to this juncture, a conscious choice to dismantle the emotional walls that had kept him and his family isolated for so long. Today was not just a performance, it was an invitation to transformation. And as he prepared, he wrestled with the weight of this responsibility. His thoughts drifted to his sister's tentative resolve, her admission of fear echoing in his mind. It pressed against his conscience. What if sharing his truth only deepened her insecurities? He had to ensure that he presented his work not as a gauntlet, but as a shared experience, a light illuminating the pathway toward healing. He took a deep breath. The vulnerability required of him loomed large. The clock ticked closer to their meeting time. As his family trickled into the room, an electric tension wrapped around them. He offered them coffee, an unconscious attempt to encourage comfort, as they settled into their seats. The photographs loomed before them, vibrant yet daunting. Samuel sought their eyes, but their gazes drifted between fascination and trepidation. "Thanks for coming," he began, his voice laced with an earnest sincerity. He lifted the first photograph, a vivid image of him standing amidst the chaos of a summer festival, joy spilling over. His father shifted, nodding slightly, though clearly grappling with mixed emotions. "It's beautiful," he managed, though Samuel sensed the concern underlying the compliment. "Thank you," he replied, grounding his own quivering spirit in the moment. "But it's not just beauty, it's a reminder of transformation, life beyond the sorrow." As he moved through the photographs, sharing snippets of his story, the weight began to lift. He projected not only his triumphs, but also his struggles, the layers of vulnerability removing heaviness from the atmosphere. Piece by piece, the snapshots revealed his journey through darkness, the shadows that had gripped his heart loosening with each glimpse of hope displayed. The last photograph was his most poignant, a close-up of a solitary flower breaking through cracked concrete, a metaphor yet brutally personal in its resonance. This symbolizes resilience, how fragile and yet powerful growth can be amidst adversity. I want that for all of us. Silence filled the room, a contemplative stillness settling as they absorbed what they had witnessed. Samuel's heart raced. He couldn't tell if their expressions held judgment or empowerment. Would they embrace the challenge stirred within them? "Okay, I'll try," his sister finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "But what if I fail?" Samuel felt a rush of empathy mingle with his own fears. There's no wrong way to express yourself. Remember, it's about finding your own voice. It's the journey that matters, not perfection. At that moment, an understanding bloomed amongst them. It was clear that they now stood at a significant crossroads. Discussion sparked, each family member tentatively tracing their emotions through shared stories and experiences. Samuel realized he was not just a facilitator, but a participant, his healing tied intricately to theirs. Yet, somewhere within him, an undercurrent of fear pulsed. What if, as they peeled back layers, they unearthed more than healing? What if buried resentments festered in the shadows? Holding on to his breath, he pondered the upcoming weeks. Would this initiation into vulnerability usher trust, or would it fracture what was left of their familial bond? As they began to share, each narration setting forth a new vulnerability, Samuel understood they were diving deeper into their emotional casket. There would be no turning back now. But could the collective exploration light the way to an unforeseen revelation? Tomorrow held its own questions, and Samuel was ready to face whatever emerged. Samuel awoke the following morning to sunshine spilling across the room, warm, but still a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. The previous day had sparked a flicker of hope in him, but it was accompanied by the weight of realization that he would have to navigate both his own emotional landscape and his family's. Feeling restless, he decided to step outside for a brief jog. As his feet hit the pavement, he focused on each stride. Physical exertion grounded him, providing an outlet for the adrenaline coursing through him. With every breath taken amidst the fresh air, he pushed aside the doubts that had begun to creep in again. He felt lighter, yet the murmur of uncertainty, would this create lasting change or dissolve into fleeting moments, persisted in the background. In the days that followed, Samuel engaged in daily conversations with each family member, one-on-one. These were no longer simple exchanges about the weather or mundane tasks. They were fortifying dialogues about their internal landscapes, aspirations, and fears. Not all discussions were easy. His sister still trembled with anxiety, and his father sometimes appeared skeptical, uncertain about the future. However, they spoke their truths with more openness, and that small shift fueled Samuel's determination. Amidst this journey, he sensed that he was starting to uncover his own hidden capabilities. For the first time, he began to recognize his talent for listening, not just to respond, but to truly hear. He found joy in crafting dialogues that stimulated reflection. The conversations often meandered through laughter and tears, revealing layers of resilience he had never acknowledged before. Like the flower in his photograph, he understood that beauty often thrives in the most unexpected places. On a particularly tense evening, Samuel gathered them all around the dining table again, this time with no photographs, but with pens and paper. "Let's write letters to our future selves," he suggested, not fully aware of how transformative that idea would be. His heart raced. He feared the idea might overwhelm them, but he pressed on anyway, drawn to the potential healing the exercise promised. Each letter can express our dreams, the fears we are combating, and what we'd like to let go of. We'll seal them and read them together in a month, Samuel continued, watching as they contemplated the proposal. His sister, still warily optimistic, finally nodded. I could try that. The willingness in her voice ignited a flicker of triumph in Samuel. As the family put pen to paper, Samuel felt the tangible weight of each word pressed against the page, his heart entwining with theirs in a shared vulnerability. The act of writing transformed the atmosphere. The tension melted away as they listened to each other's pens scratch across the surface of their truths. Samuel noted that some letters were built on joy, others cloaked in sadness, yet all were fundamentally about a yearning for connection, an authentic connection. Those moments crystallized a lesson that Samuel had already begun to grasp. Vulnerability could parallel strength, and to be open was not a sign of weakness, but an intricate path toward collective empowerment. However, lurking behind the walls of newfound resolve was a growing trepidation. What if revealing their deepest fears and aspirations unearthed rifts that were better left unexplored? Samuel sensed an impending clash, a tension swinging like a pendulum above their shared venture. After a long day of letters, he lay in bed, the day's burgeoning progress shadowed by the haunting question of conflict. The deeper they delved into their vulnerabilities, would they truly emerge united, or would what was buried sadly resurface to tear them apart? The clock ticked, and with the night stretching into darker hours, he understood. The next conversation would be the litmus test, setting the stage for what lay ahead. The moment felt critical, as if the impending conflict awaited, ready to challenge his idealism and redefine their family's unity. How would they rise to meet the truths lying beneath their facades? What awaited at that intersection of hope and fear? As dawn broke the following morning, Samuel could not shake the tension coiling within him. The atmosphere in the house shifted with the gravity of uncertainty. Today was not just another day. Today was a pivotal moment when words would surface from the depths of their confessions, and the air buzzed with the anticipation of revelation. He could feel it settle like a weight on his chest. Sitting at the kitchen table, coffee steaming in front of him, he reviewed his own letter. The words seemed painfully revealing, yet infused with hope for transformation. Writing about his aspirations sent shivers down his spine, a mix of excitement and fear tightening his throat. As he stared at the letter, a thought struck him. What if his words incited discomfort? What if they risked fracturing the fragile bond they had begun to forge? His apprehension was palpable, yet he pushed it aside, recalling the vulnerability they had shared during their writing session. Each moment of shared silence and unguarded laughter had added bricks to the foundation of trust. Samuel had witnessed the beauty emerging from their complicated dynamics, but conflict was an inevitable guest at the feast. Would it be possible to honor those barriers while moving toward deeper connectivity? Gathering his family together felt both exhilarating and daunting. He set the evening's tone deliberately, careful not to rush into the heart of the matter too soon. Dinner became a canvas for connection, laughter intermingled with hesitant glances, crossing over the loaded table laden with unacknowledged emotions. As they finished their meals, anticipation morphed into tangible excitement, though tinged with trepidation. "Let's take out our letters," Samuel proposed, his voice steady yet quivering inside, his heart hammering against his ribs. He looked at his sister, the one who had wrestled with anxiety, and his father, whose skepticism had veiled his inner turmoil. How would each react to the contents of their sealed words? One by one, they opened their letters, seemingly balancing on the precipice of gut-wrenching honesty. Samuel's sister was the first to read, her voice soft yet tremulous as she poured out her dreams and fears. She articulated her anxiety not as a drowning weight, but as a storm she aspired to navigate. The act of revealing her vulnerability ignited a spark within Samuel, a glimpse into the infinite possibilities of connection. Their father followed, his words reflecting a lifetime of unaddressed fears surrounding familial expectations and personal fulfillment. Samuel could feel the tension in the air shift. The chamber echoed with unspoken thoughts between them, their hearts racing in unison as unmasking began. Then it was Samuel's turn. As he read aloud, the words bubbling from his heart seared through the stillness, each syllable pulling them closer together. By exposing his own fears of inadequacy, he simultaneously invited them to share their struggles without fear of judgment. But with every word, he feared provoking the darker shadows that had haunted them for so long. The moment hung in silence, thick and suffocating, an icy grip around his heart. Would this patchwork of truth bring them together or shatter their fragile connections? Instinctively, Samuel braced himself for the fallout. He remembered the weight of hidden truths, the rifts that could deepen in confrontation. He realized that each letter was not merely a collection of confessions, but a crux point that could tilt their family dynamics in unforeseen directions. As they processed their vulnerabilities, Samuel observed shifts in expression. His sister's eyes glistening, his father's brow furrowing. The pendulum was swinging towards conflict, and Samuel felt the ground beneath him tremble. Would this lead them to a collective awakening, or would it reveal fractures strong enough to remain uncharted? The clock ticked, silence fell heavily upon them, masking the storm within. Yet somewhere in that pure tension of vulnerability, amid the shared breaths and biting uncertainty, Samuel sensed an undercurrent of binding power. The battle between fear and hope raged within him, setting the stage for the conflicts yet to unfold. Was this the moment that would redefine their family forever? Something dangerous and exhilarating awaited as they uncovered past wounds, and Samuel couldn't shake the feeling that the night was only just beginning. Would their journey deepen their bond or unravel the fragile threads they had just begun to weave? He grasped the edges of his chair, breath catching in his throat. The moment of truth approached. The silence hung with the weight of anticipation, thick and almost suffocating. Samuel felt a stir of uncertainty as he watched his family grapple with the revelations that had just spilled from their hearts. His sister's tear-filled eyes darted between him and their father, searching for assurance in the storm of emotions that threatened to erupt. Would they find healing, or had they unearthed ghosts better left buried? As Samuel's gaze locked with his father's, he noticed a flicker of something, a realization perhaps, or merely confusion. It was a recognition of the distance that had lingered between them for so long. The walls forged by years of unspoken feelings felt like they might finally crack, yet the possibility of collapse lingered just beneath the surface. In that charged atmosphere, Samuel sensed an urgency rising within him. He had initiated this dialogue, and now he could either let the tension linger like an uncomfortable guest or transform it into a bonding moment. He resolved to steer the conversation away from potential derailment. It was time to take ownership of his fears. "I know that revealing our vulnerabilities is scary," he began, his voice fractured yet determined. "But I believe it's a necessary step for us to really connect. Blocking it out for so long hasn't worked, has it?" The question hung in the air, an implicit invitation for his family to reflect and respond. His sister, wiping away a stray tear, nodded slowly. The flicker in her expression indicated a willingness to engage in a conversation she had previously feared, a testament to the power of shared honesty. I guess I always thought if I was perfect enough, I wouldn't feel scared, she said, nearly whispering. But the truth is, trying to hold up that facade made it worse. As she spoke, Samuel felt a rush of warmth and understanding blooming between them. Their father sighed deeply, his shoulders tensing, almost imperceptibly. Samuel watched the man who had spent years shrouded in skepticism, slowly hovering on the brink of revelation. All this time, his father broke in, his voice low but resolute. I thought I protected you both by keeping all this unspoken. I thought if I didn't talk about my own fears, you wouldn't have to deal with them either. But now I see that's not true. The gravity of his father's admission resonated with Samuel, stirring emotions that had long been dormant. Reconciliation seemed closer, yet he feared that the fragile connection they were forging could still snap. You don't have to shield us anymore, Samuel said softly, heart pounding with each word. We can face this together now. His father looked hesitant but intrigued, as though he were trying to deconstruct years of built-up defenses. Samuel felt the cracks widening, the possibility of connection expanding in the space between them. Maybe I've been too afraid to open up, their father continued. I spent so much time trying to be strong that I lost sight of what it means to be human, to be flawed. But you both have reminded me that vulnerability isn't a weakness. With each revelation, the walls more firmly began to crumble. Samuel felt a spark of courage ignite, propelling him forward. Let's not tiptoe around the shadows anymore, he said, eyes alight with determination. We have a chance to change our family narrative, to rewrite our stories. A flicker of dawn seeped through the night as he spoke, an expectation surging that they might emerge stronger than before. Their vulnerabilities could become their bonding forces if wielded right. Yet, just as a buoyancy filled the air, doubts skittered like butterflies in his stomach. What challenges lay ahead? How would they navigate the deep waters of their individual wounds? And as he cast a glance at his family, the unease in his heart reminded him that they had only scratched the surface of their potential conflict. His chest tightened instinctively, knowing full well that real change often treaded dangerous ground. But Samuel was ready. He could feel the shift within himself, the newfound potential stirring with purpose. He sensed this was just the beginning of their journey toward true understanding. Yet the path forward remained obscure and laden with trepidation. What lies ahead is unknown, he thought, but we can't run from what we need to confront. The words formed silently in his mind as the air around them thickened with possibilities and unshared truths. The moment had clearly arrived for deeper exploration, but to what extent would they traverse their collective soul's dark terrain? Samuel grasped the table's edge tighter, ready for whatever lay ahead. Would this make or break moment lead them to transformation or fracture them deeper than before? As the soft glow of morning light streamed through the kitchen window, Samuel's heart raced with expectation. The air was thick with anticipation. They were gathered again, a family transformed by shared vulnerability and the willingness to confront fears. The previous night had kindled flames of hope, but remnants of hesitation still lingered. This was their moment to deepen their understanding and elucidate the path of healing they had cautiously begun to tread. Let's reflect on our letters, Samuel suggested, his voice steady yet tinged with urgency. These words weren't just observations. They were invitations to engage with each other in ways we never have before. He scanned the faces around the table, taking in the hesitant glances, the sparks of recognition carved into expressions etched with past sorrow. His sister met his gaze, her eyes a mixture of bravery and apprehension. Their father, still wrestling with long-standing inhibitions, offered a thoughtful nod. The transformation they all yearned for loomed, yet clarity eluded them like a fleeting shadow. "Last night stirred something in us," Samuel continued, "but we must not let fear hold us back. This is an opportunity to synergize our strengths and vulnerabilities, not merely as individuals, but as a family." His words hung in the air, each syllable reverberating with intent. In that silence, Samuel felt a burgeoning sense of empowerment. They were no longer mere spectators in each other's lives. This newfound commitment compelled them to foster deeper connections through openness and honesty. With a deep breath, Samuel initiated the first step toward deeper dialogue. He shared more insights from his letter, this time embedding them into tangible moments of growth. He spoke of the depths of his isolation and how it became a crucible for understanding resilience. "I felt alone for so long," he confessed. "Yet it was the isolation that ignited a fire within me. I learned that strength is often birthed in vulnerability." Their father's brows furrowed, and although silence enveloped the room again, it was distinctly different this time. Curiosity had taken root amidst their fears. "That's a different perspective," he finally acknowledged. "For the longest time, I thought vulnerability was going to expose us to weaknesses. But you're saying it's a pathway to strength?" "Yes," Samuel nodded earnestly, feeling a surge of conviction. "It's a bridge, a way for us to connect without the fear of pretense. We all have walls built from expectation and fear, don't we? It's time we recognize them together." His sister encapsulated the moment beautifully. "It's like each of our voices holds a note," she said, hesitantly gaining confidence. "When we combine them, we create harmony, right? But if I'm afraid to sing, or if Dad holds back, we'll never hear the full melody of our truth." The metaphor struck a chord. A wave of understanding washed over Samuel, invigorating his resolve. It was time to dismantle those barriers together. "Exactly, but it's our choice to lean into that discomfort and explore where we've been, how we can create new memories that harmonize with our past." The table's atmosphere began to shift. Where the weight of apprehension had once settled heavily on their shoulders, the flicker of hope ignited a spark of connection. They began to share their aspirations, their concerns intertwining with each revelation. Discussion flowed. Honesty became their shared currency, with each member of the family revealing layers of themselves hitherto concealed in muted whispers. But as the hours unfolded, Samuel sensed an undercurrent of unease. This wasn't just surface-level healing. They were tackling the complexities of who they were as a family, a dynamic steeped in love, frustration, and the shared burden of unexpressed expectations. What emerged were stories, shadows, and regrets, each family member wrestling the intricacies of their emotional tapestries. His father, now emboldened by the dialogue, wiped away tears that recalled the toll of inadequacy. "I had the impression that if I stayed stoic, I could shield you both from disappointment, but I didn't realize ruining authenticity was a consequence," he said, his voice trembling towards vulnerability. In that moment, the dam of years began to break. Samuel felt the freedom swell within, fueled by the recognition that acknowledgement brought enlightenment, transcending the burden of silence that had long tethered them. "Dad," Samuel took a breath, dialing up the courage. "We want you to be human, to acknowledge that sometimes you don't have all the answers. We're allowed to be flawed together, to navigate uncertainty collectively." The room pulsed with this newfound depth of understanding, and during a pause, Samuel saw clarity wash over their father's features. "I'm sorry, I've held you both to impossible expectations," he said, voice punctuated with sincerity. "I need to embrace the messiness of life instead of fearing it." This declaration drew every one of them closer. The shared weight began to lift palpably. It was clear they were crafting a different narrative, one that propelled them from their respective pasts into a brighter collective future. Each confession became a thread, entwining acceptance with shared resolve. As the sun dipped, casting golden rays upon their united figures, Samuel realized they were no longer battling against fear. They were instead acknowledging it, an integral part of the human experience. They were the architects of their own stories moving forward. In that moment, Samuel understood he had not only rekindled connections with his family, but had ushered them into a transformative experience, a journey that would redefine their understanding of intimacy, authenticity, and love. With newfound resilience, Samuel smiled. They had traversed the depths together, dismantled the burdens of grief, and woven a strength rooted in vulnerability. They had stepped into the light, no longer slaves to expectations from the past, but a family poised to face the future together. And as they prepared to embrace the unpredictable journey ahead, Samuel concluded that personal growth lay not just in overcoming adversity, but in redesigning familial narratives filled with compassion and understanding. The moment he had anticipated, the one that could either unite or divide, had emerged as a powerful testament to their collective resilience. It was now they were truly awakened, and here remained the profound potential of transformation. This was just the beginning. Samuel felt the firmness of purpose settle within him, not merely as an individual, but as a part of something greater. Today, they had redefined what it meant to be a family. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.